Welcome back. I know right now, looking outside, it doesn't look like December or that Christmas is around the corner, but when you look at the OHL schedule, it says we have reached the Christmas break. So this is kind of like the unofficial halfway mark of the regular season for the teams, except for the Kitchener Rangers. They're the only team that's officially hit 34 games, so they're at the halfway mark. But besides all that, it is exciting to see where teams are, and we have the OHL trade deadline just over 3 weeks away, January 10th, after the World Juniors. So a lot to unpack from the final week before the Christmas break, and let's dive right into it with the power rankings for December 18th. And sitting at number 20, down 4 positions, it's the Barrie Colts. And I think the Christmas break couldn't have come at a better time for this team. They were 0-1-1 last week, but they had an impressive game against the Kitchener Rangers on Saturday. They were down 3-0 to start the third period and then came back to force overtime. However, that comeback fell short as Matthew Sopp scored the winner in overtime within the first minute of that overtime period. But Ty York, he was the hero in that game. He had 2 goals and also drew the penalty as Hunter Brustevich hauled him down, and that resulted in a power play goal for Carter Lowe. And, for the Barrie Colts, injuries, they've been an issue for these last few weeks, also with players now at the World Juniors, with Sam Hillebrandt and Edward Chalet off to represent their countries. It's all hands on deck right now for the young talent on this Barrie Colts team. Players that I think are showing a lot of promise. And, even though they're being put in situations that I don't think Marty Williamson had planned to put them in, they are finding ways to get it done 5-on-5. This team 5-on-5 has done pretty good. It's the specialty teams, the penalty kill and the power play, both near the bottoms rankings in the Ontario Hockey League. But outside of that, the Barrie Colts still being competitive. I know they're 20th on this power rankings video, but there is a chance for them to turn around. I know that we could see some movement before the OHL trade deadline, but outside of that, Jacob Frasca should be back and healthy from his hip injury. Still waiting to find out what's going on with Anson Thornton, the overage goaltender with the Arizona Coyotes. But this is a Barrie Colts team that, the Eastern Conference is still wide open. Playoffs are not out of reach. So it's going to be an interesting team to see how they regroup and get set for the second half of the OHL regular season, because their next 3 games after the break include the Sudbury Wolves, Brantford Bulldogs, and the Owen Sound Attack. And that Sudbury Wolves game, it's on home ice on December 28th. It's a Thursday night at 7 p.m. And just to note, it will not be on Rogers TV. So you will have to access that one through the CHL TV app. Number 19 on the power rankings, the Kingston Frontenacs. No change from last week. They went 2-1 over the last week. They took advantage of the struggling Peterborough Petes. They also took down the Niagara Ice Dogs, and then Gabriel Frasca was the overtime hero against the Brantford Bulldogs. So the Kingston Frontenacs, they had a great game there against Brantford, a great way to end it. Going into the Christmas break, that loss to the Niagara Ice Dogs may be a little disappointing, but this is a Kingston team that I think has a lot of potential, especially when you've got Gabriel Frasca playing the way he is. They picked up Roman Schmidt from the Kitchener Rangers, and he was a point per game over the stretch since being acquired from Kitchener. He has 3 assists in those 3 games, so Roman Schmidt fitting in nicely. I think this is a Kingston Frontenacs team that's going to climb in the Eastern Conference. Expect them to be buyers maybe heading up to the OHL trade deadline. Their next 3 games after the break, they have a home and home, or actually no, they start off against the Peterborough Petes and then a home and home with the Ottawa 67s. Number 18, the Sarnia Sting, another team not making any changes. The Sting, they earned 3 of a possible 4 points, going 1-0-1, and the one overtime loss was against the Saginaw Spirit, who are a very good team in the Western Conference. So for Sarnia, it was a good little week there. Carson Chartier also returning from injury. He earned the win against the Flint Firebirds, where he made 22 saves in his return. So that's some good news for Sting fans. The next 3 games for Sarnia after the break, they have a home and home at the London Knights, which is always a fun rivalry for the 402. And then they take on the Windsor Spitfires. Number 17, up 3 positions, it's the Niagara Ice Dogs. Niagara, they had a good week, 2-1, earning wins against Ottawa and Kingston. And the Ice Dogs, they are keeping pace with the teams in the Eastern Conference. It won't be easy, though, because they're 10 points back of Kingston, who right now hold on to that final playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. But if they keep playing the way they are, this is an Ice Dogs team that's going to give some excitement for the fans in St. Catharines. I know it's been some lean years with Niagara, and the fans, I think, are a little restless. They want to see the team back in the playoff picture. But they do have some good talent, Gavin Bryant being one of them. He had a strong week with a goal and 4 assists in those 3 games. So next 3 after the Christmas break, the Owen Sound Attack, Erie Otters, and the Guelph Storm. Coming in at number 16, it's the Peterborough Petes. They have fallen 4 positions. I have the mighty fallen. The Peterborough Petes, they got off to that hot start, but they've been on a steady decline ever since. They went 0-3 last week, but the game in Guelph, it was a close one. Jacques Dubois, he scored 2 goals to start the third period to tie the game at 5, but then penalties were an issue, and that resulted in the Guelph Storm scoring 2 power play markers and put the team up 7-5. So a little bit of a heartbreak there for the Peterborough Petes on the road. And for the Petes, they're 2-8 over their last 10 games, and they've also lost the services of Zach Bowen. He had knee surgery done as a precaution, so he's going to be out of the lineup until the middle of January, it sounds like, at the earliest. So tough there for the Peterborough Petes, and also just with the trade deadline around the corner, they're a team to keep an eye on as to who might be moving or what kind of changes might happen as this team right now struggling to find the back of the net and to earn points. Their next 3 games after the break, they have a home and home with, or they play against the Kingston Frontenacs, and then a home and home with the Mississauga Steelheads. And Mississauga right now leading the Central Division, so that will not be an easy matchup. Number 15, up 2 positions, it's the Erie Otters. Erie, they went 1-1 last week, a win against North Bay, and then a loss to the Ottawa 67s. There is some really good talent on this Erie team, and a player that doesn't really get enough attention in my mind is Andre Molnar. 3 points over the 2 games last week, and he's riding a 6-game point streak. So Molnar looking really good right now for the Erie Otters, and their next 3 games after the break include Guelph, Niagara, and Brantford. Number 14, it's the Mississauga Steelheads. They fell 1 position. Yes, Mississauga might be first in the Central Division, but they continue to play really average hockey. They went 1-2 last week, and those 2 losses were against Oshawa. The Generals outscored the Steelheads 13-5. Mississauga is just, they're struggling against Oshawa. And penalties continue to be an issue for this team. They are the most penalized team in the Ontario Hockey League with 518 penalty minutes. The London Knights, they're second with 495. So when they have the goaltendings on and the team is looking great, that can hide the penalty troubles. But when they're struggling, it catches up. So Mississauga maybe needing to look towards playing a little more disciplined hockey. I know they're a young team, they're learning, but I think the penalties might be catching up to them. Their next 3 games after the break, Windsor, and then a home and home with the Peterborough Petes. Coming in at number 13, it's the Windsor Spitfires. They're up another spot in the power rankings. They might be tied for last overall with Niagara in the standings, but this team, they've been playing much better hockey. They went 1-1 last week with their 1 win coming against Owen Sound in a shootout. And the Spitfires, over their last 10 games, they're 6-4. So don't overlook Windsor when you're playing them. They're right now 8 points out of a playoff spot in the Western Conference. So they do have a big hole to dig themselves out of. But if Windsor can keep playing like this, playing above 500, this team could catch a vulnerable team in the West. And I'll let you know what team that is in just a few moments. But next 3 games for Windsor, they have Mississauga, Saginaw, and Sarnia. Coming in at number 12, the Flint Firebirds. They're down 3 positions in the power ranking. They went 0-3 last week. They're the team that I think is looking vulnerable in the West. Right now, they're holding on to that final playoff spot. They're 8 points ahead of Windsor and 4 ahead of the Sarnia Sting. So the Flint Firebirds, they're struggling right now. And, if they don't turn this around, we could be looking at Sarnia or Windsor maybe taking over that 8th spot in the West. It just seems like the old habits have started to return with the Flint Firebirds, and they just can't shake it off right now on a 6-game losing streak. Their next 3 after the break include Kitchener, Guelph, and London. So this losing streak, it could potentially hit 9 games because all 3 of those teams in the Midwest Division right now are playing some really good hockey. So things right now looking a little worrisome in Flint. Coming in at number 11, it's the Owen Sound Attack. No change from last week. They went 0-2-1, and it was a rough loss against the London Knights. Ethan Burrows, he made it 1-0 late in the first period, and then the Knights, they scored 5 unanswered in the second period and defeated the Attack 8-2. Owen Sound, they are a very streaky team. They're still waiting for the return of Colby Barlow, the Winnipeg Jets prospect. Although he's coming from a back injury, he's been on the ice in a no-contact jersey. So even when he is ready to play, you expect it to take him a little while to get back into his groove because coming back from a back injury is not easy. And for Colby Barlow, it'll be huge when he can come back into that lineup because Owen Sound in the thick of it right now in the Western Conference. And their next 3 games after the break include Niagara, Kitchener, and Barrie. Number 10, the Sudbury Wolves. They fell 3 positions, and it was a difficult road trip for them through the Western Conference with stops in Flint, Saginaw, and London. They ended up going 1-1-1. We're still waiting for Sudbury to just turn it on, just to hit that next gear like we've been expecting. The Sudbury Wolves, I sound like a broken record right now. They were the favorite coming into this season, and they're still not anywhere close to taking top spot in the Eastern Conference. David Goyette, though, he's been picking it up. He's now top 5 in scoring with 48 points, and he had 3 goals and 2 assists on the road trip. And you know what? He was kept off the score sheet against the London Knights, but still a factor in the hockey game, making his presence known. So David Goyette really getting things going with his 32 points. Also puts him 3rd in assists in the OHL. So I like to play David Goyette. I know there's some people who are questioning why Team Canada left him off the roster for the World Juniors because David Goyette, he is a really good player, great playmaker, but the Sudbury Wolves benefiting from him being on the roster right now. Their next 3 games after the break include Barrie, North Bay, and Sault Ste. Marie. At number 9, the Oshawa Generals. They're up 6 positions. The Generals, the biggest mover on the power rankings this week. They went 3-0 and have earned points in 6 consecutive games. Oshawa looking really good right now. They're rolling along, and they're 6 points behind Ottawa for first in the East Division. So look out for Oshawa. Stuart Roloffs, he had a good week. He had 3 goals, 3 assists. Connor Lockhart had 6 goals, including a hat trick in the first game against Mississauga. And Beckett Seneca, another player, he's draft eligible this summer, 2 goals, 2 assists. So things starting to click for the Oshawa Generals. I didn't even mention Callum Ritchie. He had a good week too. And also Dylan Robrick. So the Oshawa Generals, I think they're now starting to reach those expectations. I kind of figured Oshawa would be challenging for top spot in the East. And here they are. They're now getting points in 6 straight games. After the break, they're going to play Brantford, North Bay, and Kitchener. And those are going to be some big challenges because Brantford's playing much better. North Bay is near the top in the Central, and Kitchener, first place team right now in the Ontario Hockey League. So a big challenge ahead for Oshawa, and we'll see what this team's really made of. Coming in at number 8, the Brantford Bulldogs. They're up 2 positions. It was another solid week for the Bulldogs, going 1-0-1. They have points in 5 consecutive games, and they're 1 point out of first place in the East. Merrick Van Acker, 2 goals, 3 assists in the 2 games. He looked fantastic. Also to note, I was at the game in Brantford when the Barrie Colts were on the road, and I would not be surprised if Brantford stays in the OHL. The fans there, so passionate. They were so excited. It was a loud building. I know it's a low ceiling at the Brantford and District Civic Center, but man, that was a fun time. So if you're a junior hockey fan and you're like, well, maybe I'll check out a game in Brantford, I highly recommend it. Tons of fun. It's a small barn, but a big atmosphere. It really is similar to the Jack Gatecliff Arena that the Niagara Ice Dogs were playing out of in St. Catharines when they moved there. It's fun, and enjoy it while it lasts, because if Brantford does move on to build a brand new arena, it'll probably lose a little bit of the charm, but I think the Brantford fans are more than capable of carrying on with the Bulldogs. It's a fun venue, definitely worth checking it out. And the next 3 games for the Bulldogs include Oshawa, Barrie, and Erie. Coming in number 7, the Ottawa 67s. They fell 4 positions, and it was a tough road trip for them. They went 1-2, starting with a 7-4 loss to the Niagara Ice Dogs. Ottawa's lead in the division has shrunk. They're now down to 1 point over Brantford. However, Colin McKenzie, he is now number 1 in save percentage in the OHL at .914. And he's also he's got a goals against of he's got the best save percentage at .914, and he had a save percentage of .926 in the loss to the Mississauga Steelhead. So McKenzie continues to get it done, and I think he'll be a factor for this team going forward, as I wouldn't be surprised if the 67s make some noise in the Eastern Conference. Their next 3 games after the break include North Bay, and then a home-and-home with Kingston. Coming in at number 6, it's the Guelph Storm. They're up 2 positions. They had a great week. They went 3-0, and that included a 3-2 win in a shootout against the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. So if you can beat the Greyhounds and take a point from them, that's a good sign. The Guelph Storm, they are in the thick of it in the West, 1 point back of London and Saginaw, but they're still 10 points behind the Kitchener Rangers for the lead in the Midwest Division. Kitchener's just built up such a great lead at their start, but the Guelph Storm right there with them. Braden Gillespie continues to be solid in net, a .906 save percentage, which is 4th in the OHL, and a goals against average of .278, which is 2nd best. So Gillespie continues to be solid there between the pipes. Next 3 games for the Storm include Erie, Flint, and Niagara. Number 5, it's the North Bay Battalion. They fell 1 position. It was a bit of a disappointing week for them, going 1-2, and that lone win came against the Niagara Ice Dogs at the end of the week. They were missing Ty Nelson and Dom DiVincentis from their lineup. Of course, those two were at the camp for Team Canada. They did not make the World Juniors team, so they did not join the battalion on the road trip. Anthony Romani, though, continues to produce for North Bay. Goal, 3 assists last week, extending his point streak to 9 games. Romani looking fantastic. He's also 4th in the league now in points with 51. So the next 3 games after the break for the battalion, Ottawa, Sudbury, and Oshawa. Coming in at number 4, it's the Kitchener Rangers. They fell 2 positions this week. Kitchener, they've played the most games in the league with 34, so they're officially at the halfway mark. And for them, they went 1-1 last week with a tough loss at home against the Sioux, and then avoided collapse against the Very Colts with a 4-3 win in overtime. Kitchener, right now, they're dealing with injuries and players at the World Juniors, so their lineup is depleted right now. So this Christmas break coming at a good time for them. I don't expect Kitchener to fall much from this position, but who knows? It's junior hockey. The next 3 games after the break for Kitchener include Flint, Owen Sound, and Oshawa. At number 3, it's the Sioux Greyhounds. They're up 2 positions, and it was a full road trip for them with stops in North Bay, Kitchener, and Guelph, and they managed a record of 2-0-1. And it was a statement win for them on the road at the Odd against the Kitchener Rangers. They won that game 6-3 despite missing a few key pieces at the World Juniors. Brendan Cirizzotti, one of those players filling the gap, he had 3 goals, 2 assists on the road trip. So Cirizzotti, a fun player to follow with the Sioux Greyhounds, and getting the job done right now. And the next 3 games after the break for the Sioux include Saginaw, Sudbury, and Saginaw. So those 3 games are huge, especially the games against the Spirit, as Saginaw is still trying to close that gap with Sault Ste. Marie at the top of the West Division. Number 2, the London Knights. They're up 4 positions, and I had to do a double take when I saw London at number 2 in the power rankings. But you know what? They did go 3-0 last week, including wins and overtime against the Sudbury Wolves, where Ruslan Gazizov was the hero. And there's no denying this London Knights team, they have the depth. They have a lot of great talent, and expect them to add at the OHL trade deadline. They managed wins despite missing several players who are right now off at the World Juniors. So the London Knights getting it done as they keep pace with the top teams in the West. Their next 3 games after the break, home and home with Sarnia, and then they take on the Flint Firebirds. So at number 1, that leaves the Saginaw Spirit. So no change from last week. It's actually their 3rd week in a row at number 1. The Spirit, they went 3-0 last week, including a 3-1 win over the Sudbury Wolves. Also, Alex Christopoulos. What a pickup he has been from the Windsor Spitfires. He had put up 3 goals last week and has goals in 4 of his last 5 games. He has regained a scoring touch that he had with Windsor. The next 3 games for Saginaw after the break include Sault Ste. Marie, Windsor, and then Sault Ste. Marie. So we're going to want to keep an eye on that battle there between the Spirit and the Greyhounds when we return from the Christmas break. But really, this power rankings, it just goes to show that the power is in the West, because the top 4 teams in the power ranking all come from the Western Conference. And really, you could give an argument for any of those teams to be the top. Saginaw, Sault Ste. Marie, Kitchener, London, they're all doing very good. And then you also factor in the Guelph Storm are not really that far behind. So the West, a lot of power there. And we're just over 3 weeks until the OHL trade deadline. And it's going to be fascinating, because I think we're just waiting for that first domino to fall. Player may be coming from the Eastern Conference to one of these powerhouses, and then when they see that a rival's made that trade, they're probably going to make a trade themselves, which is always a lot of fun. We saw that last year in the Eastern Conference, because the powers seem to be in the East, and when that first team makes the trade, and then the dominoes fall, and then we start to see where all the pieces may fall. So it's going to be fun. And also to note, if you didn't see the recap video from the game Saturday between the Barrie Colts and the Kitchener Rangers, I am planning to do a live stream on January 10th. So it'll be the first live stream on the channel, and we're going to be following along with what's happening at the OHL trade deadline. So with that in mind, let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts on the power rankings for this week. And most of all, enjoy the Christmas break. And I know there's no OHL hockey, but there's still the junior hockey as the World Junior Championships get underway in Sweden on Boxing Day. So hit like and subscribe to be notified about future videos, and we'll talk to you again soon.